Assalamualaikum and greetings to Dr. Fazila and my fellow friends who might be watching this video. We are from Group 4 of Mathematics, and these are our findings on grab usage and monthly allowance correlation. And these are our data, and before I start, I will introduce our group member. We have Fatimah Rukayah binti Hassan, matrix number AS10895, Anis Amirah Darwisha binti Jaafar AS10261, Ahmad Haris Syahmi bin Husairi AS10253, Joanna Trusa Edwin AS11334, and me, Ni Haris Mustaqim bin Ima Haris AS10392. Today, I will be the representative who will be explaining on our findings. First of all, I'm going to go over in the introduction the objective of this study and what we can recommend based on our findings and what I can conclude from these findings. Okay, so to start off, our findings are mainly on the correlation and regression analysis between the monthly allowance and the frequency of Grab car usage. And Grab Holdings is a ride-sharing company. Grab is also like a taxi, but it is more convenient, easier, and faster, and the fee is relatively cheap. So we want to see how does monthly allowance affect Grab usage in general, since Grab is very cheap, and that is our objective, to study the relationship between the monthly allowance and the frequency of the Grab usage. It's a quite simple topic if we look closely. So for the methodology, we do this the simple way. We took our data from Google Forms, and that is pretty much it. After we got our data from the Google Forms, we share it among our group members, and we sort out the variables that are available. So for the independent variable, we have monthly allowance, and for the dependent variable, we have frequency of Grab usage. That is what we can theorize, what we can get from our data. So we use the correlation and regression to study the relationship between the monthly allowance and the frequency of the Grab usage. So if I just focus here, you can see here we have the graph times using Grab per week versus monthly allowance. You might not be able to see this very clearly in the video, but as you can see, we have this straight line going on. It's not exactly a straight line, there's a few dots scattered around, but we can make a line of best fit, and it shows a straight line going upward. What does this mean? We can look at the calculation, and first of all, before we do any calculations, we need to make a table that shows the values on the x-axis and the value on the y-axis. We have on the x-axis the monthly allowance value, and the y-axis we have the times of usage of Grab per week. And after all of those has been settled out, we can calculate the covariance, but the data here is too big. We have too much numbers, and we have too high of a value to be able to use covariance efficiently. The value of the covariance will be very high. So to make this thing much more easier and to eliminate the usage of mean, standard deviation, and variance altogether, we used a much more simpler calculation method, which is the Pearson Product-Moment. Pearson Product-Moment uses the x and y value. It doesn't necessarily use the mean value, the variance value, and the standard deviation value, which is very neat, very convenient, because it makes the calculation much more easier and the values are much more lower. So as you can see here, the Pearson product moment that we got are 0.17. According to my calculations before, the numbers that we get are quite high, which is, if I remember correctly, 500. Yes, in the range of 500 to 400. And it's not exactly practical to put that kind of number here, so we need to use Pearson product moment in order to get a better accurate reading. What does this Pearson product moment tell us? This Pearson product moment basically tells us that this graph, this reading has a low positive correlation. Having a low positive correlation means that these data correlates with each other, but it doesn't necessarily influence each other that much. It does affect one another, but it does not perfectly depend on one another. So in order for us to actually see, to actually know what is the factors of usage of Grab per week, we need to actually see more than just the monthly allowance. Maybe the factor of work, maybe the factor of distance, and the factor of how many persons are using it at the same time. So from this, we can actually see that the monthly allowance actually affected the times of using Grab per week. It's just that it has a very low correlation, which means that it doesn't actually correlate that much, but it still correlates a little bit, just a little bit. So what can we recommend? Well, we can reduce the frequency of Grab car usage by using the Grab car only when it is really needed. Besides, we can also share the Grab car so that the price can be divided among the riders, which will theoretically, if we follow the recommendation by reducing the frequency of Grab car usage and also sharing at the same time, we could possibly make this graph and also the readings much more streamlined, and maybe having a perfect correlation in between. So in conclusion, the Pearson product moment showed that the values have low positive correlation to one another. This means that while the values do not affect one another, it does not perfectly depend on each other, and this showed that there are a lot of other factors that is counted in for one person to use a Grab service than just their allowance. That is all from me and my group, which is group 4 of mathematics. I am Nick Haris Mustaqim, and thank you for listening to this presentation.